yes, you're an Islander guy. You're probably my favorite Islander.
Thank you.
Right?
I feel
He's one of the few you like.
I've grown to love them all. So the truth is, I think when we last spoke, I know you were riding really high.
Yes.
Things were feeling really
Yes.
good, and in a very, very short time, you found out that the Islanders aren't who they
Hold on one second.
So,
Hold on one second.
I feel bad.
Hold on one
kind of how it went
second.
down.
Hold on. Last year, in the beginning of the season, they traveled 11,000 miles in the first month. They didn't have.
13 road games to start is a really
It's horrible. It was brutal. And then they had
COVID.
Then COVID. They had nine starters out for 2 weeks. They were playing guys we never even heard of. I mean, and they went on that 11 or 12 game losing streak, and that pretty much cost them the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, the Islanders got a raw deal, and then I still would love the inside scoop on this, but you firing Barry Trotz is absolutely horrendous of a move. I'm sorry. I don't know what was the real reason behind it. I don't know what Barry Trotz was looking for. I think Lane Lambert is a nice transition, which won't be disruptive. But the truth is, when you look at the Islanders, they went through 2 seasons where they got to the conference finals and couldn't get past the Tampa Bay Lightning, playing that smash mouth, team defense that is really hard to do for a long period of time. Ask any John Tortorella team that's been any good, and it just grinds you to bone. I don't think that, that was necessarily what caused them to miss the playoffs. But going forward, they just don't have enough offense. And I think it's going to become even more evident with the way the Metro Division has improved all around. Like the difficult thing for the Islanders is they did nothing this offseason except for take a downgrade in coaching. They really did nothing. I think, we could talk about Romanoff, and I think he's a nice addition to an already good defense. But who's Matt Barzal playing with? I mean, I love Anders Lee, but who's Matt Barzal playing with?
Which is true. And I also sit back and we've watched 2 preseason games and they've scored the amount of 2 goals. But it's also you're playing guys. Barzal played a couple of shifts, so and we haven't seen a lot of these lines really develop. And what we see that these lines are going to be playing under Lambert. And I agree with you. They didn't really do anything. Romanoff, I think, is a nice piece. I think now put him together with Dobson, you have your future number 1 line defensive pairing. Absolutely. The problem here is the offense. And I agree with you. What Lou did in the offseason, firing Barry Trotz, only time will tell. Maybe Lou writes a story. Maybe Barry Trotz writes a book in a couple of years and maybe we find the real truth out. I like Lambert. I want to see what Lambert could do as a head coach. We still don't know who he is behind the bench as far as, because we've seen who took over for Barry Trotz over there in Washington. It didn't work out over there. So Lambert is a guy that a lot of experts have said they really, really like this hire. He's not going to change anything because he's Barry Trotz's disciple. So we'll see how it works out. And yes, they're not going to score a lot of goals this year. It's going to be rested on Sorokin and his development and this defense. And I agree with you. In the NHL now, smash mouth defenses are not like what it was in the 90s with the Florida Panthers when they played the trap Roger Nielsen, and then the New Jersey Devils when they played with Lou Lamoriello and Robinson as the head coach, and what they like to play with Jacques Lemaire. It's not the same thing. It's a different game. It's an offensive speed game. But going into the offseason, the Islanders didn't make the offensive moves that Islander fans wanted. That doesn't mean that some of the players that they have some guys, that young players that could really take it to the next level this year. Wallstrom is a good young player. I like Kiefer Bellows. I don't know if he's a part of their future, but I like him. I like Ronti. I think he's going to be a fantastic player. A lot of experts believe that the Islanders stole him. A lot of people thought he should have been a first-round draft pick. He fell into the second round. And they have some good guys. But the Rangers, I think the Rangers lost some pieces in the offseason that a lot of Ranger fans didn't like. They added a piece, a face-off guy that could win face-offs. He's gritty. He scored 20-some-odd goals last year. a lot of Ranger fans are sitting here and they think that because of what they did last year, it's going to get them to that next level, maybe the Stanley Cup Finals, after going and getting burnt in the Eastern Conference Finals against Tampa Bay Lightning, who were just better than they were. But
I don't know about that.
I think they were.
I think you could get, they were more experienced, and I think you can give them credit. I think they were better, but it was like, when you say better, the way you're saying better was like infinitely better. And the truth of the matter is,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
They played 20 games in 40 nights. Mm-hmm. That was every other night of playoff hockey. What I think a young Rangers team learned is that you cannot go 2-7 round. You can't go 7 in the first 2 rounds. You just cannot survive. You can't survive playoffs that way. You need to find that killer instinct that championship teams have. Mm-hmm. The Colorado Avalanche, for all the failures before, went on a 16-4 run. They didn't play any games. They didn't let anybody off the hook. They annihilated everyone in their path. I think the St. Louis Blues gave them the biggest scare, to be honest. In the end, the Blues really gave them the scare. I think the Lightning just kind of hung in there, but the Blues might have had the best chance to beat them. Nobody else even came close. And, I mean, the Avs are who they are. Their path is very similar to, like, the Rangers' path, because the Rangers, their young guys are starting to fill in those gaps that you were talking about. You know, Andrew Kopp gone. Frank Vetrano, nice player, gone, but replaceable. Kopp would be a little harder to replace. Strome was the piece that was hardest to replace, and they did with Vincent Trocheck. And I think Trocheck is a better playoff player. Certainly difficult to play against, and that's what you need in the playoffs. You know, will he have chemistry with Panarin? That's the question everyone's asking. Who's going to be the right wing on that line? I think it should be Kakko, right? I don't think it should be Kravtsov. And if anybody's watched these 2 preseason games, you can tell Kravtsov is not playing in the NHL, not playing in the AHL, and being in the KHL last 2 seasons. He needs to play on that third line and just start getting comfortable with the NHL game before you start throwing him on a line with Panarin, to be perfectly frank. And I think Lafreniere is going to go on that first line with Kreider and Zibanejad. So you look at the Rangers, Lafreniere scored 20 goals almost last year, 19 in his sophomore season. If he's playing top line minutes, he should be able to get 30. I mean, just think about it. He scored 19 playing primarily third line, no power play. Guy had 1 power play assist, I believe. That's saying something. He is a first overall pick for a reason. So when you look at the Rangers, yes, I'm not going to scream that they're going to win the cup. I think that's ridiculous. Do they have the pieces? What needs to fall into place? I think looking at the Eastern Conference, I think they actually have a great chance to be the team that goes to the Stanley Cup Finals to face probably the Colorado Avalanche again, because the Avalanche look pretty darn good again. They're fully stacked. You know, I don't know about their goaltending, that's suspect, but I didn't have any faith in Darcy Kemper, and he won a cup.
If that Stanley Cup does happen, Alexander Georgiev versus the Rangers will be an interesting story.
Before anybody says that,
I wouldn't put Georgiev as the starter.
No, I don't think so either. I'm thinking that'd be a funny headline.
Will have a say in the matter, but
no, I agree with
Georgiev is in the mix.
I just want to apologize to everybody. I was looking at Hank Greenberg. It was the 30s and 40s he played, not the 40s and 50s, and he hit the 58 home runs in 1938. So I'm sorry. I want to apologize to everybody. I'm sorry.
So you actually you explained the kid line very well. I was going to ask about that, but you said about Lafreniere and Kakko, guys like that. So how about the defense, the young defensive players? We saw Nils Lundqvist just get traded last week to Dallas. They got a first-round pick.
He had no spot.
Yeah,
he had no spot here.
So Zach Jones, Braden Schneider, that seems like to be the path. Braden Schneider obviously played all last year. Is that the path they're going to? And what do you think their ceiling is?
So when I look at the Rangers defense, I'm looking at the Rangers defense as possibly one of the best in the league. I know that people are, Islander fans will immediately go crazy, but Adam Fox is a Norris Trophy winner.
Oh, he's probably
Adam Fox is probably one of the top.
Fantastic.
I think Ryan Lindgren is a great partner for a guy like Adam Fox. Maybe Ryan Lindgren on another team wouldn't be as special, but his chemistry with Fox he's got that. You mentioned the '90s, right? I heard you before saying that the '90s is probably the golden
Absolutely.
era.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Being a kid from the '90s myself,
yep.
if I could start rattling off, every team had somebody who I think could have been in the Hall of Fame.
I can agree with you.
It's not even a comparison.
Yes.
But with that being said, Rangers '90s, Leach and Bukaboom. Bukaboom's a solid defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
You put him with somebody else, maybe he's not Bukaboom as everyone knows him.
Right.
But he was the perfect match for Leach and allowed Leach to be who he was. So I look at that symbiotic relationship and say, yes, those two are a great defensive pair. I look at Jacob Trouba and K'Andre Miller, and Trouba is a hard-hitting, hard-nosed defenseman. Does he make some mistakes? Sure. But he's still a veteran leader, and he played a big role for the Rangers last year. But the key, no pun intended, is K'Andre Miller, who has all the tool sets for being one of the best defensemen in the league himself. He's got a great shot, incredible speed. All that was lacking for me was like just the hockey IQ of knowing when to jump and when to step back. And he seems to be getting that. And once he puts all these pieces together, he's going to be right up there in the conversations for the Norris Trophy. I wouldn't say like top 3, but at least somebody might say, that kid is pretty good. We should probably talk about him. When you come to the third pair defense, Braden Schneider is a first round pick for a reason. He's like a young Jacob Trouba who's a little bit faster, makes a better outlet pass. I want to see more offense. I want to see him step up and be a little bit more physical. And Zach Jones is the leading candidate because Zach Jones has an extremely high hockey IQ. And he has to because he's one of the smaller defensemen. Quick moving with the puck. He can't play out of his comfort zone. He needs to be who he is. And plus, he's probably going to make it because this is the last year of his entry-level contract. He's 21 years old. Rangers need to know what they have before they actually, move him or trade him, right? Otherwise, you're kind of wasting an asset because he's kind of highly regarded. So I think those are your 6 defensemen, and Libor Hayek is going to be your 7th defenseman when this all shakes out.
We are talking to the owner of Forever Blue Shirts and Daily Goal Horn, Anthony Scultore. Now, I would say that the Rangers have a good young bunch of pairing defensemen. Okay, I would agree with you, and I think Adam Fox is a fantastic player, but he's also playing with great offensive players, and that's why he's up for the Norris Trophy every single year because he's playing with top young or top good offensive players. I mean,
sounds like Islanders envy.
No, I'm saying this, but the Islanders have like Noah Dobson. He had 50 points last year, but
he's awesome.
He's a great young player, but we don't know how great he could be because they don't have the offensive firepower that Adam Fox has, where you could say, "Oh my God, this guy could be one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL."
Maybe the Islanders should be spending millions and millions of dollars on fourth-line players like Casey Cizikas and Cal Clutterbuck and Matt.
Well, I think the Casey...
I mean, I'm only being honest. They're a great fourth line, a great identity.
Well, hold on one second. Kyle Clutterbuck
overpaid for it.
They re-signed Clutterbuck for like $1 million. He's not making a lot of money, and Casey Cizikas is making $3.5 million. And I like Casey Cizikas. The Rangers wanted to sign him.
I agree. I like him too.
He's
not at $3.5 million.
I think he's a great player and he's a great leader. But I think with the Islanders is in the offseason, there was just not many offensive players that were out there. And then the players that they were interested, they struck out on, obviously, because they wanted an extra year. And everybody knows Lou Lamoriello does not like to dig into his pockets after 4 years. These guys wanted 5-6 year contracts. Lou wasn't going that way.
I hear you.
He wasn't. He did it with his defensemen because he knew Pelech and Pulak were their future. Those two guys are arguably the two best defensive pairings in the NHL. So you pay, and they didn't overpay those guys. They really didn't. And I think they were good contracts by the Islanders. So I understand why Islander fans are sitting here today and they're saying they didn't do anything. Okay, but again, maybe they didn't need to do as much as everybody thought that they needed to. Last year, they were fighting so many injuries. They weren't, and Brock Nelson, I'm not a big Brock fan. Everybody knows that. I actually can't stand the guy. but he's a good player. He's one of the more underrated centers in the NHL.
He scored, I think, 35 goals
Yeah,
last year.
he had a very good season.
I think Brock Nelson is solid.
I'm not a big fan of his, but everybody respects what he did last year under Barry Trotz. We'll see what he does this year under Lambert.